Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. So it's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off, Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off. Online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free, 20 takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Fricali. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up. Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and I'm alongside my co-host Tyler. And in today's episode, we are joined by a very special guest, current professional hockey player Brett Boeing. Brett is currently signed to a deal with the Toledo Walleye of the ECHL. Brett played 3 seasons in the USHL as well as NCAA Division I hockey at Michigan Tech for 1 season before playing with U-Mass Amherst. Welcome to the show, Brett Boeing. Brett, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Good to have you on. I know we tried to get this on last week, but didn't work out because because Tyler had to miss. So it's all good. So it's good to get you on this week and like get this thing full on rolling. So
Yeah, no worries. I'm glad to have him on it too.
yeah, for sure. So can you give our viewers a little background information on yourself? Like when you started playing hockey, when did you realize that you had a chance to become a professional hockey player, and like the teams you played on from like the past until like now?
Yeah. So I grew up in Chicago. I was born in Barrington, and then so I started playing hockey. Actually, nobody in my family. It's a really weird story. Nobody in my family's athletic at all. So it was kind of weird thing. I was actually at the rink one day, or it was like a little learn to skate thing, and then I saw hockey and I kind of fell in love with it and started when I was 3, and then I stuck around Barrington for a while, just playing AA hockey and whatnot. And then my first step was mites. I guess I went to the Chicago Blues in Bensonville. Started playing hockey there before AAA was a thing. And then after that, I started to kind of realize that I kind of had an edge on everybody else, and me and my buddy, I don't know if you know him, Grant Stube was another well-known name at the time. He's also my birth year, and me and him were close. So we left the Blues. Actually, we went down to Chicago Chill and followed a really well-known coach in Chicago, Todd Finner. And Todd Finner, everybody in Chicago loved him. He's a great skating coach. He's really good with the kids. Like really knew what he's talking about. So we followed him down to Chicago Chill when that used to be a thing, which is now the Fury. So I stayed down there with him. And then played there for, I want to say, 3 years. My last coach, Matt Noga, was that's when I Fury. So I played for Fury for 1 year, and that was my 8th grade year. And then I took off. I got recruited to go to St. Mary's boarding school. So I ended up going to there and went there for 4 years. Loved every second of it. I highly, like, if anybody thinks about going to prep school, I highly suggest going to prep school. Just the camaraderie and living with your best buddies and playing hockey with your best buddies is nothing you can get by. And then after that, I was drafted in the USHL in the 8th round or somewhere around there. And I went there right after I graduated from Shattuck, played there for 2 years. I actually committed to go to Michigan Tech University, like you said. I committed there to go in my sophomore year of high school when I was at Shattuck, and I didn't end up going in there till 2 years out of college. So it's kind of a weird process, and so I ended up going to Michigan Tech after my 2 years in Dubuque. Loved Dubuque. I was always that was always a city and team that all the kids wanted to go to growing up. And then so I ended up in Michigan Tech for a semester, but it's kind of a hit or miss. So the coach that recruited me left, and it was kind of they were really good. I loved the team there. I loved everything about it, but it wasn't really what I wanted at the time. And when I was 14, I didn't really know what I wanted, and kind of ended up getting forced into going there. So I went there for a semester, and then took off after a semester. Went back to the USHL to Dubuque. I had a really good relationship with the coaching staff there. So I kind of had a deal where I ended out it was my 21-year-old year, so it was my age out year. Ended up there, had a good run in the playoffs, lost in the finals actually. And then that first semester after that, I was assistant coach, or I coached with Dubuque and was getting ready for my first semester at UMass. So I took the first semester off, transferred in the second semester UMass, and then played there for 2.5 years. And it went from a 5-win season to a national championship season in 2 years. It was actually wild how it came to be. And then I was fortunate enough to sign my first pro contract with Detroit's organization and started here in Toledo and signed with Toledo right after I graduated, and then had a great year until I guess COVID hit this year, and now we're kind of waiting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like the path you took, and like you said, you were with Shattuck St. Mary's for 4 years. So like when you played in both AAA and AA, so like how important was it for you in your development playing with Shattuck St. Mary's for so long? Like how much did that organization mean to you? Because it really like helped jumpstart your career.
I think the big thing you see actually between like a prep school and AAA and AA, you look at teams like a Fury, Team Illinois, Mission, like all the Chicago teams. You're only practicing 3 days a week. Like you're only around your buddies so often. So once I went to Shattuck, you practice every single day. You have a strict workout schedule. You're around your buddies all the time. I mean, going there was kind of a blessing in disguise. I was 14 years old, didn't want to leave home, of course, but I knew it'd be the best path for me to take. So, I mean, like I said, it was one of the best things I ever did. Between skating every single day of the week, playing a rigorous schedule, being basically your life revolves around your hockey and your schedule between your class. You go to class from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m, and you go practice, and then you come back to class. So it's like everything was revolved around that, which was really cool. And like I said, the biggest thing is you get more ice time. You can work on your developmental skills. We had 3 rinks there, so there was even time where there was an open rink. You could just go skate whenever you want. So there's just so much more access to developmental skills and the coaching staff and whatnot at prep school at Shattuck compared to like what I would have been at AAA in Chicago.
Yeah, so like was it hard to get used to at first, or like what was that transition period like going into Shattuck St. Mary's and just like having like this like full on workout schedule, skates, like classes, like how did you handle that as a beginner compared to how you ended up?
It was honestly when obviously when you're 14, it's you don't really know what to do in life. You're basically told like you got to go to school, and you got to do your homework, and then you got to play hockey, and then you go to bed. It's such so the sense of moving away from my family, I had to take care of my schooling, take care of myself, make sure I get to dining hall, make sure. I mean, they didn't. It's not like they had you on a strict program there by any means, but I mean, they take care of you. But it was really hard. I moved into a dorm room with a kid that I actually became close with who didn't play hockey, but I mean, and he was just a regular student there. So it was definitely weird to leave your parents. I was fortunate enough where my parents were able to come every single weekend, not every weekend, but a handful of times. So I was homesick to start, but I think transition in a sense was, I mean, the thing that helped me the most was you're living with your best friends. Like, I mean, you in the hockey world, it's such a tight knit group, and always being around it, you don't really think about like being away from your home friends or whatnot. So I think it definitely was a hard transition for the first month or two, but then after I had really good relationships with my friends there, like I still talk to all those kids. Like my best buddies from there, like I'm still real close with now and talk to them every day.
What was the hardest part about when you first transitioned to prep school? Like, what was the like one of the big things that you know struggled to get used to at first?
I think the biggest thing that I struggled to get used to was time management. I mean, like I said, you get put into a scene where your mom and dad aren't be like, hey, you gotta get to school, like, hey, I'm taking you to practice. Like, you're on your own. Like, if you miss a class, like, that's on you, and you kind of have to take care of yourself, and you gotta set aside for homework. I mean, my schedule basically would be you start at 8 in the morning, and then, like I said, you go till 1 o'clock, you go to skate, and you come back to class, and then um, you have about a 4 hour time period there where you got to get dinner, you got to start doing homework, but then you got study hall they have at night. So I think the biggest thing was time management for sure, and making sure I was taking care of myself. I mean, that's one thing. And then the hockey, you go from Chicago, like you like I said, AAA hockey, you have about 5 standouts that you could tell we're going to advance to the highest levels, but then you got guys that probably were not going to play after high school. So once you got there, like, every single person there was at my caliber, at my level. So it's kind of like, I mean, when I got there, Nathan McKinnon was my line mate. So I got there and I didn't know who he was. A kid from Canada, never even heard of him, and I was like, man, like, I had no idea who he was. So it really was weird to see, like, to think back now. Like, I had, for my first team there, I had 8 NHL draft picks, and I'm trying to think, Ian McCoshen was a Blackhawk. Played with him. He was on my first year team. Nathan McKinnon was on that team. And then there's plenty of other draft picks that were on that team. It's just, I didn't really know, like, that I was going to get pushed that hard going in. So that was one thing.
Yeah, that camaraderie, crap, I can't say it. That just seemed like it was unreal, and like just like being in the locker room, like being like living with your teammates, and like everyone at Shattuck St. Mary's is just like a family like culture, and like you get super close to them. And same thing with college, like right now, like I'm living with teammates, and like the time management is definitely one of the hardest things to do, because like you have a lot of distractions that you could get involved in, but you just got to make sure that you're focused on like what you want to achieve. And school is super important. It's number one, and then your sport as well. So it's definitely a good thing to be a part of, but you just gotta stay on top of everything.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's everybody, when you go to prep school, like Shattuck, everybody has that kind of laser focus in on, I want to get to the next level. I want to be the best player I can. So it's kind of, there wasn't no stragglers in a sense where, hey, this kid's is kind of slacking off or whatnot. Everybody had that vision of getting to the next level.
Yeah. So what was it like being Nathan McKinnon's line mate? Because like he obviously is in the show right now. So like, how did you know he was going to the show right when you got there?
No, I literally had no idea who he was. I mean, I had no idea. I couldn't tell you. And the only reason that about halfway through Christmas break, so these are good Nathan McKinnon stories. So Christmas break, we had a road trip. We were playing in Chicago. So I was for Christmas break, I was just gonna. The bus was going back to Minnesota, and people were flying out. But I told him he could fly out of Chicago. So funny enough, this was when the Olympics were going on. So this is the famous Sidney Crosby goal. So he came to my house. Actually, he was supposed to fly out, but Halifax had bad weather, so he couldn't fly out. So he came back to my house, and this was the day. So I don't know if you've ever seen it in a magazine, but ESPN used to do. They said, instead of Sid the Kid, I had ESPN had him on a big thing of him front page saying Nate the Kid, and this was when he was 14 years old. And I'm like, man, like just to think that, like, wow. But then, so Olympics are going on, and the famous Sidney Crosby goal where he threw his glove in the stands, wherever they won the gold. He was in my basement, and when he scored that goal, he's close to Sidney Crosby. Like, he trains with Sidney Crosby all the time still. Like, that was his idol growing up. Like, him and Sidney Crosby, like, he would worship that guy and kind of praised everything off him because he's such a hard worker. But when he scored that goal, I kid you not, McKinnon was going wild throughout the house. It was unbelievable to see that, and to think nowadays, like, what he's become, and honestly, he's become a better player in a sense. And I mean, this year, obviously, Crosby's getting a little older now, but McKinnon is he's such a show. Like, oh man, he literally defies just MVP status every single year. He's always putting in the extra work. Like, he is an absolute specimen.
Yeah, that's a funny story, and like I could just imagine just him going wild when Crosby scored that goal, because like I remember that goal, and that goal was crazy.
Heartbreaking
And,
for
like,
us, eh?
yeah, for sure, it was awesome. So just to hear that, like it's like how much he looked up to Crosby, and how much like it pushed him to be
Oh
further
yeah,
and get further in his career.
yeah.
Yeah, so then you began your junior career playing the USHL for the Dubuque Fighting Saints. So, like, what was the process like to join a junior team? Like, did you go to like open tryouts? Were you invited to their camp, or like what was
So
going on there?
out of my senior year at Shattuck, I got drafted to Dubuque. They have so USHL has a futures draft, which is 1 year, and it's just future. So you're looking at a kid 1 to 2 years out that they just, I mean, kind of protect for a little bit, and then I got drafted in the regular draft, which is guys that are looking for the next year or year or two, and I got taken by Dubuque. I knew the coach there. Actually, previously he was just with Dallas at the beginning of the year. Jim Montgomery was the coach, and I got picked there. And I really didn't know what to expect going in. I knew I was a good enough player to be in the league, but I mean, you got to think. You go from when you go from high school to juniors, you got guys you're going from 18-year-old, all you got 21-year-olds. So you're going against bigger, stronger, faster guys. So you kind of up your game. And so once I got there, I didn't know what to expect, and I was we got invited to the World Junior A Challenge, World Junior A Challenge, which was like the teams that won the previous year in all the leagues. So we played in Omsk, Russia, my first couple games, and it was cool. We got to tour around Moscow and everything, and then we played the tournament, and it was kind of like a tryout, basically. It was a training camp, and I think we had like 32 guys, and I played really well the final game. I had kind of funny story. I had 3 assists in the first period, and then I got kicked out. I need someone, so I got kicked out, but we ended up winning the bronze, and kind of secured my spot in the team. And then I had a social year my first year there. But like you said, once you go to juniors, you got to kind of build your resume again. Like, you got to build your reputation. I mean, there's guys like McKinnon or some of these guys that step right in, but I mean, that's once in a blue moon. You have those top couple guys. So I kind of had to find my spot, and I never got scratched the game before until then, where I mean, the young guy gets the odd game out here and there because you got more guys in your roster. So that was a big adjustment period for sure. My first year, it was kind of a learning experience, and then my second year in the USHL, that's when I was one of the league leaders and kind of took off, and had my best year of hockey, honestly. And that's kind of where I got my reputation at the time. And then once I got to college, it kind of went down my first college, and then I ended on a good note at UMass.
Yeah, so what was like the biggest thing you learned like all throughout junior hockey, and like what was like the biggest thing you learned, and one of the hardest things that you had to learn to be successful?
The biggest thing I learned probably was just adjusting to your specific role. I think growing up, everybody wants to be that goal scorer. Everybody wants to be that go-to person. But once you get to juniors, you gotta say you're a first liner. That's your job. If you're a third liner, you're looking at you gotta find how you are gonna do to put yourself in the lineup. I mean, if you're gonna be a goal scorer, you gotta be better than those first line goal scorers. So you gotta adjust your game basically to what is gonna keep you in the lineup and what's gonna kind of push you. So I mean, over my career, I've went from a goal scorer and really offensive guy, kind of changing it, and now I've become more of a defensive two-way guy that has the goal scoring ability, but I've really focused more on my defensive side and used that to kind of push myself and get to the higher levels.
Yeah, for sure. You just that adjustment, I would think it would be really hard, especially coming from just like the go-to guy, and like you said, and just having to like adjust your role of what you are going to be as a player in juniors. It must be like super difficult to like realize like that you have to like fit that, like
Yeah, for sure.
fit that player, and like how like what was that like what did you have to do to help solidify yourself as that player?
I think, like I said, my first year was a learning curve in Dubuque. Kind of, you got to put your hours in, you got to put your games in, you got to get to that experience. And that's kind of what I took as a learning curve. The first year I put in the extra work. I mean, once you go to juniors, I wasn't going to school anymore too. So, I mean, some people are in high school, but I wasn't in school. So I had so much extra time to work on my game. And I mean, I'd go to the rink and I'd have practice, and then I'd have an extra hour and a half after or whatever. So I kind of worked on my game, and the first summer I had, I really buckled down. I'm like, this is my second year in Dubuque. I'm going to be one of their go-to players, because I knew that the leaders were going to college. So I was like, I'll step in next year. So I stepped in right away, and that's kind of, I ran with that. And I think there's an adjustment period. Like even here in Toledo, my first year, it took me a little adjusting too, and then kind of got my feet under me, and it's all getting comfortable with your surroundings. Like ECHL plays a different playing style than college. Like college is just a run and gun. Like everybody's just want to kill each other. It's really hard nosed and physical compared to pro hockey or juniors. I would compare junior hockey to pro hockey. Then college hockey is just kind of a different thing.
What would you say is something or some things that were specific that you said you were going to the rink for extra time to work on your game? Can you name specific stuff in your game that you were working on to try and be one of those go-to guys in Dubuque?
Yeah. So, I mean, we'd go to the rink, so I'd go to the rink 9 o'clock probably 10 o'clock in the morning. Actually 9 o'clock in the morning. So there's some of the high schoolers, they were in school till 12. So we couldn't practice till 12:30 in the first place. So what would happen was the guys that weren't in school would report to the rink in the morning around 9:30. We'd get a workout in, there'd be rollout, we'd do yoga. There was all these different things you do. But I think the little things that kind of separated what I would do, so we'd have practice, and then we'd have extra time after practice. So 12 practice get done at 1 o'clock. And then, it's either once I was a center, I was working on face-offs a ton, or working on my shot, or I think that's one thing you don't see in like AAA hockey in high school hockey. You got that window you practice in, and then the Zamboni comes out. Once you're in juniors, once you're in college, like it's your ice. Like that team owns that ice, so you can stay out there as long as you want. So you'll go to some of these practices, like you'll see pros, or I mean even here, like practice will be done and we'll be sitting on the ice for a half hour just messing around working on our skills for whatever skill it is. I mean, shooting or just playing games with the goalies, but even the little mini games, we'll play 3-puck, and I mean it helps the goalies, it helps the players. There's always that little skills you're working on just to kind of keep you ready. Or before my second year in Dubuque, I really worked on my shot, and that's when my scoring took off. But that's kind of the major thing that kind of pushed me that first year, other than just kind of putting in a little extra work and skating and whatnot after practice.
Yeah, you just gotta get noticed more, and just by like doing all that other stuff that like you do after practice, before practice, like it definitely gets you like coach's attention, like that you really want to be there, and definitely want to keep improving there. And 3-puck isn't a bad game to get better at, and it's super fun.
Great.
And
Oh yeah,
so,
it's a challenge. It gets guys competitive game too.
Yeah, I always play 3-puck at the end of skates. Like I know that for sure, and it's definitely brings that competitive edge out of you. You know, even if you're super dead and like you don't think you have any more, like those games definitely bring something more out of you.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, one other thing I'll add there is, I think one of the biggest thing is confidence. If you're going to the rink and you don't have faith in your game and stuff, I think you look at a guy that will have a good year, and just because he started out, so he'll have a good first 10 games, and then he'll just keep that going all year. Or a guy you look that struggles the first 10 games, it's hard for them to get to that peak that he wants to be at. And I mean, I've talked about it. I had a mental coach that kind of helped me out through high school, actually. And confidence, I think, just staying positive, even if something's not going your way. I think that is one of the biggest things. And once you get a rhythm going, just to ride that wave and ride the positivity.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because a friend and I that I skate with every week, like 3-4 times a week, we were just talking about confidence, and like how confidence has definitely made us a better player.
Oh yeah.
Ever since quarantine, like we've been like getting in the gym, which also boosts the confidence as well. Just skating 3-4 times a week, getting the ice time in. and like just like knowing that you're making the plays you want, you should be making, and maybe plays you shouldn't be making. So confidence is huge, and like you definitely have to sometimes hype yourself up to bring that confidence out, but
Oh, I agree.
it's all worth it at the end. You got to do it.
One of my biggest things. It was one of the weirdest. I was in a real bad slump at UMass. Like it was just like off the ice, on the ice, things just weren't going right. And I got our team doctor. He pulled me. He's like, listen, I know you have like on YouTube. I'm sure you can search yourself and you'll see your goals from Dubuque or your goals from earlier on. He goes, look when you were doing like well. Watch video on yourself when you're succeeding, and that'll kind of boost your confidence and push you through that negativity.
Yeah, 100%. It works 10 out of 10 times, which is great, and it definitely does help your performance on the ice as well.
Yeah.
So when you were in Dubuque, you were also an assistant captain for the team, and you got 48 points in 60 games with a plus 16. So, like, what made you and your team so successful during your second year?
I think that Dubuque team, my first and second year there, our best players didn't leave. Like another Chicago native, Seamus Malone, who went to Wisconsin, and then he's playing pro in the A right now. And then Dylan Gambrell, who was another guy. He plays for the Sharks, San Jose Sharks right now. And the coach, actually, his name is Matt Shaw, longtime assistant coach in the NHL. He came down. He had a really good game plan. And I think one thing that team kind of separated, and when I became kind of a leader for that team, the camaraderie through that group, like everybody just was so happy to come to the rink. It was, I mean, I've been on teams where you just get in a slump and guys just want to hate each other and it's just so negative. But I think like one thing about that year, that second year when we really took off, was just everybody wanted to be at the rink. Everybody wanted to be around each other. It was just such like, I mean, you look for the Cubs, here's a good thing. Joe Madden, when he came to be a manager, like the stuff he did away from the baseball game and just to keep guys excited, or what David Ross did. I think one big thing, like I said, it's that confidence, that positivity. And it's not like we had the best players. We had studs in the team, but it just helps that guys loved each other. Guys wanted to battle for each other. Guys wanted to play for each other every day. And it helped. Our fans were great. It was a good city to play in. We had close travel. Personally, that year I kind of took I was one of the older guys in the team, so I had young guys come in and kind of, as an older guy in juniors, you have these 17-year-olds or 16-year-olds coming in, so you kind of take them under your wing and kind of show them the ropes. So lucky enough when I was captain, I was able to do that, and it was really rewarding for me just to see guys grow through it.
Yeah. So how much of that leadership role like helped you become a better player and a better person overall?
Like I said, I think as a player, I knew that if I was going to bark at someone, or if I was going to be like, hey man, like you got to step up your game, I knew I had to, like, I couldn't be slacking. So it kept me at a level where I couldn't drop. I had to stay high. Even if I was struggling or whatever, I still had to make sure I would put on a face or battle through those negative times. And then as a person, I think just being one of the older guys at the time. I mean, when I went to UMass, I was one of the older guys, so guys looked up to me, and I'd always look after the guys. Like I'd invite the guys always to wherever I was living and take care of and whatnot. So it kind of developed a trait in me where I would kind of take after the guys and make sure they're doing well and be like, hey, like if he's struggling, I'll reach out to him. And I think it developed that trait in me, that kind of look after everybody and make sure everybody's doing well.
Yeah, that's a great trait to have, because if you like slacking off, like you said, and like you're trying to call someone out, like you have no right to do that, because you're also slacking off, and then like it's gonna just go through the whole team, and the whole team's like camaraderie and all that's gonna just decline. So you have to put on that battle face and just like stay focused and make sure you're putting it all on the ice every single shift and every single practice, wherever you are, off ice, on ice, anywhere.
It always starts at the top and then trickles down throughout the team. That's one of the, when I was in Dubuque, that was what our coach said at the time. He goes, it starts with the coaches, trickles down to the captains, to the older guys, and then to the young guys, and that it's so true. It's just the spread of the leaders into it, just kind of pushes everybody as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. So going into your next year, you commit to play college hockey for Michigan Tech University, like you said. You played in 11 games, and you also play for Dubuque again. So, was it weird that you played the first part in college for NCAA, and then you go back to the USHL, or did you just how did that go?
Um, the adjustment to college, like I said, it's such a hard nose. Like WHA is the key example of college. Like it is just run and gun. Everybody trying to kill each other. You finishing every single hit, like making sure you're back checking no matter what. Like you're not slacking at all. I mean, I love that team there. The guys in that Michigan Tech team, I was given a lot of opportunity to play there. And I played a good amount there. And actually, I was really had success for the time there. And I just personally off the ice, that's kind of what affected me, and that's kind of why I didn't really want to be there. It was my first offer at the time. I didn't know what to do, and I took it. And then once I left, so I left actually. I played in the GLI. I actually played the last year the Joe Louis Arena was around in Detroit, so I got to play against Michigan State that weekend. And then I was on my way home, talking to my agent and everything, and I was like, "Hey, I'm not happy, and I want to make sure like." Playing miserable is the worst thing ever. Like I want to make sure I'm happy at all times, and even off the ice, on the ice, just I want to be happy. So I made the decision. I was on the bus ride home back up to the UP from Detroit, and I called my dad. I said, "Hey, can you meet me at my dorm room? I want to play. I want to go back to Dubuque because I had talked to the coach in Dubuque. 'Cause I'm friends with him. I'm really close with him and had a good relationship where I could be like, hey, this is what's like my deal. What are my options? Like, I know you're going to have – and that was another hard part. So I left. They told me, hey, you got a spot in Toledo. I actually played the next day in Toledo, January, New Year's Day, against the program, U.S. development team. And it was really hard because I was coming into a team that was already doing well, and they were doing really well at the time. And I forced someone to get sent down because they had to make room for me. So they had to actually cut someone. So I felt terrible. And it was a really well-liked guy that he came back later in the year, which was great. And I'm still really close with him. Colin Tyson plays at Notre Dame. But they had cut him for a little bit. And I was like, that kind of upset me at the time. But then once I got back there, like the city really welcomed me. The fans, like everything there was really good. I was back being happy. And I love that. Like, Dubuque is it was home to me. I talked to my billets there, and my parents are best friends with them and sees them every single weekend. But going back there, it kind of, like I said, being happy translates down the ice. Like it's the weirdest thing, and whatever it is, it does it. And I was able to right when I went back there, I had every single school you could possibly think of offering scholarships, and I was kind of minimum done. I wasn't going back to the WCHA. I wasn't going to Atlantic, and then some ECA schools, but I wasn't looking to go to the Ivy by any means, I should say. So then I was either Hockey East, Big Ten, or NCHC. So I had talked to a bunch of teams throughout there, and I told teams, I said I didn't really want to commit right away because I committed so early the first time. So I wanted to kind of see my options and take my time. So I actually didn't commit until summer of that year So I waited till the whole season went on, and then I committed in the summer to go to UMass. But I actually really wanted to go to Notre Dame at the time, but they had mentioned that, well, I guess, so for school, since I had to get my 2-year degree before I went back into school to Ford University to be eligible. So once you transfer from school, you have to sit a full season out, or you have to get your 2-year degree. So I got my 2-year degree in Dubuque before I could go back in to UMass. So what happened when I was talking to Notre Dame, I couldn't go there because of schooling and whatnot, and I would have to restart. So it wouldn't have worked, but that's where it was my number one choice. Everybody from Chicago wants to go there. So then I had a really good opportunity. Ben Barr, who was at UMass, the coach, I had known him. He actually went to Shattuck too. So I had that connection and chose there, and I knew I'd get a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, so then you go to UMass, and so what was your experience down in UMass, and how you had to recreate your resume once again to prove that you can play pro. So what was that experience like going from UMass through all all 3 year or 2.5 years that you were there and being so successful there?
It was my first year there. Like I said, I missed hockey for a full year. So I jumped right into a team that was already halfway through a season. So I went in 16 games into the season out of shape. Like I thought I was in shape, but you can only play games to get into shape, like, or you can be in a part of a team. So it was really hard. My first year, it really was mentally taxing on me. I won one game there my sophomore year. And then, so that year was really challenging. And then going into junior year, I knew I'd be better, but I went from getting all the opportunities playing first line and second line, whatever, and then they wiped out a lot of teams. So they actually cut a bunch of players, and we brought in, I think it was 14 freshmen. So I knew I had to kind of battle for a spot because I had such a bad season and lost all my confidence. So I had to kind of start over and really hone down on my game. So my junior year, I was playing third, fourth line minutes or fourth line minutes to start, and then worked my way up to third line to close out the year. And my last actually 6 games, I went on a good streak. My junior year, we went, so that year we went to the Hockey East quarterfinals, I want to say, or semifinals, and had a good year. And then my seniors really when everything took off. Kale's second year, all these freshmen that were these standouts, it was their second year, and I established myself as the third line center and second line center from the beginning of the year, and then just took it throughout the whole season. That it was really hard because I lost a lot of those guys, got cut. A lot of those guys were gone, and then it was a brand new team my junior year, and then that kind of led into a dynasty that's formed, and now they got all these draft picks getting committed left and right, and they're so successful now. And I think that Greg Carville, who's the head coach there, and Ben Barr and Jared DeMichael, they've done an unbelievable job in recruiting and getting the right players there and kind of setting a standard.
Yeah, that's awesome how like you're able to work your way up from like third line all the way up to like second, first line, just like getting all those minutes and just getting the ice time. Like ice time's huge in your development. So that's good that you're able to get that chance and like you made a name for yourself and really helped your case for playing all those minutes and getting all that ice time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how awesome was it playing in front of UMass's fans and like the atmosphere in the arena? It must have been super electrifying. It's so sick to play in. So like, what was that like?
It was my senior year. It was unbelievable. So I went from my sophomore year, we might have had, so we have an 8,000 seat arena, and we might have had at most 600 people. We were that bad. Like it was such a bad, like we would go to the rink knowing we were going to lose every game. And once we started to get traction in, and you got the big name like Kale, you got Mario Ferraro, you got some of these guys coming in, it kind of sparked some noise. And then even my junior year, we probably averaged about 5,000. And then start of senior year, we went on a 10 game streak to start the season. And then students were starting to come left and right. And you could have only, it was 4,000, the 8,000 arena that were for students, and students would line up starting at 1:00 in the afternoon. And it was just, we'd go to the rink and there's just people lining up. And I mean, we go to the rink 3 hours before the rink, and it's about 1,000 people deep. So that was unbelievable to see. And it was so loud. That was probably one of the coolest. We played, once we became number 1 in the country for the first time ever, UMass ever came number 1 in the country. We played Quinnipiac at home that weekend. It was a whiteout. And I'll remember this forever. The picture's still on my Instagram. It was so, you couldn't hear anything. Anything you said to your teammates on the bench, you couldn't hear anything. It was so loud. And we were down, actually went down 3-1, and we ended up winning 4-3. It was one of the best games I was ever a part of, just for the fans, that you couldn't hear anything. It became such a big thing. Like we went from being the terrible team on campus to just the team everybody wants to talk to. And you go into a huge classroom of 200 people, and the teacher would give you a shout out and whatnot. So I mean, that was kind of cool. Or my final year when we went to the national championship, like our teachers had deals with us, like, hey, like we know you got work, like just don't worry. Like, once your season's over, we'll take care of your work. Like you get your homework done once the season's over. Like the teachers were really lenient and really helped us out. So that was really awesome. And when we went on a run, every single bar in town, like everybody had the games on ESPN. It was, they had watch parties all over. Like if you ever look up U-Mass is the Barstool affiliate for them. They had all these watch parties and whatnot. It was one of the best years I was ever part of hockey, and to go on that run, and the fans there were just absolutely wild.
Would you say, playing in front of all those fans, having it be so rowdy, would you get a little more nervous to try and live up to these massive expectations for a sellout crowd, or were you kind of excited, yeah, let's go bring it on for these fans?
I mean, you had the back of your mind, you're nervous, but you're more. They're bringing the excitement. You want to put on a show in front of the school. You want to be that big name that's going to score that goal and whatnot. So there was definitely a little nerves at times, but it brought way more excitement. Like I said, I have a picture on Instagram that I'll think about forever, and the fans literally, they brought so much energy. You just wanted to score, and you wanted to make those big plays. So I think in the back of your mind, you're a little nervous, but for the most part, it was bringing excitement.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for the last part of this episode, we want to touch on your pro career a little bit. So after your senior year, you went on to play for the Toledo Walleye. You signed a deal with them. So what's been your experience in your first year in Toledo? And I know we were talking last week, and there's some you told me about a lot of how the experience went. You had some older guys on the team, you were one of the younger guys. So, what has been your experience there, and just playing hockey in Toledo?
It's almost like juniors, honestly, where you're going to a team, you're the young guy, and you got guys older. In a sense, I played with a kid named Blake Hillman who played in the Blackhawks. I told you that last week. I played with him in juniors, and then he went to Denver, won a national championship there, and then we parted ways, and then we ended up back on the same team, and we were always close and talked to each other for I guess through those 4 years, and it was really cool to reunite with him. But then you got guys that are a guy like TJ Hensick, who's got 200-some games in the NHL, and is 33 years old, 2 kids. So it's such a balance. It's not the college setting where you're around your buddies 24/7. The camaraderie is unbelievable in Toledo. And the one person that really helped me out was Steve Alexsky, who played for the Penguins, who won a cup with the Penguins. And he started in the coast and worked his way up with NHL and ended up winning the Stanley Cup. But he was really one of the best guys that I kind of leaned on. I want to say he's 31, 30, somewhere around 32 maybe. Anyways, he kind of took me under his wing and really helped me out as kind of a mentor, and I looked up to him. But I think the biggest thing is it's almost like junior hockey again. You didn't have school to worry about. You focus on hockey and hockey only. You go to the rink from 9 a.m, you're done by 1, and then you get the rest of the day to hang out. But I think the one thing that was different was you got guys that are 30-something years old, and it's such in a sense, it's a disconnect in how you talk or your slang or whatnot, but they're still in a sense of being close with you. And I was really close with the older guys on the team, and I kind of gelled with them.
Yeah, so this was one weird season with COVID coming into place. Were all the events happening up until COVID hit and the season being canceled and all that?
I mean, that was the weirdest thing. So we actually we were on our way back from a trip to Canada. So we were crossing the border when this was all going on the week prior, and we're like, man, this is really going to be a thing. There was so much talk. We didn't know what the season was doing, what was going on, and canceled. So we actually had a Tuesday game that week, which is, we don't play many weekday games, but we play some. And we were playing Cincinnati. So Cincinnati came into town, and we started seeing NHL, all these leagues going down. And initially in the morning, they tweeted out, fans, you're all welcome, ready to go on this Tuesday. And about 4 hours before game time, they said, no fans, nobody's on the building. So we played the game on with no fans, no nothing. And that was one of the weirdest things. They did the goal, they played it like a regular game, and it was so quiet. There might have been 8 people in the stands, just between family and whatnot. But that was a really weird experience. You don't play. In a sense, guys play. Sports are entertainment business. So, you play for the fans in a sense, and you want to put on a show for people. As fun. Everybody loves playing hockey for the fun of it, but you also you also have that sense where you're entertainment. You're playing for the people and the fans that come to the games. So that was a weird thing. We played a really good game, and I want to say we won the game too. But it was definitely a weird experience, and then the next day they shut down everything and said, pack here. You got one day to come to you got to come to the rink tomorrow. You got to pack up your gear and the season's over and wait till next year. It was definitely a 2-week span where I was like, what is going on? But now we got to actually have a start date for the season 2 days ago. So we're going to be starting January 14th. We were hoping to start December is what we were told, but it just got pushed back to January 14th. So it's good to have a start date. And now I can actually prepare for a season that's going to be happening.
Yeah, so like, what are your this is my last question. Is like, what are your expectations going into next season? Like, you recently signed another contract with Toledo. So like, what's the plan for next year?
So for this year, I mean, I it's like the same for junior. So I established my role. I established myself. I showed that I can play. I showed that I can put up points. I showed that I can play a significant role for the team. So I'm hoping to get more opportunity, get bumping minutes maybe. But I think the biggest thing this year is just kind of took what I learned last year as a rookie. And I mean, you don't really speak up much as a rookie. You kind of just go with the flow. I think now I can kind of feel more comfortable in a sense and use that comfort and experience, especially staying in Toledo. I know the coaches. It's my second to the coaches. I have more comfort with talking to them and like, hey, what do I got to do? Like, here's what's going to happen. Like, what do I got to do to get that extra opportunity and whatnot? So I think this year I want to see some more opportunity and hopefully get some a more significant role this year than last year.
Yeah, that's awesome. And can't wait to see what you guys are going to do this year and how you guys are going to compete. So, Brett, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate your time. And if there's fans allowed next year, you can for sure see us coming down to Toledo and watching a game.
Thanks for having me. I'll get you tickets whenever you need.
Yes, sounds good. Thank you again. And we want to wish you the best of luck, like we said, and have a nice rest of your day.
Appreciate it. You too.